This was last night's, the previous Santa, Santa number 6. I was just looking for a reference this morning. I'm thinking, I'm fed up with drawing Santa. And this is going to be the last one, I think. This number 7, or should it be a round number? Anyway, I think I'm all Santed up, out, whatever. So this one I'm going to do is more profile Santa. So as I said, looking for references that I haven't kind of or angles that I haven't covered was the issue, I suppose. But anyway, this will probably be the last Santa. Is that a film? The Last Santa. You can see that, can't you? In these times, The Last Santa. Anyway, yeah. White hair is a heck's happened there. White hair is an interesting thing. It's like drawing the whiteness of things. Let me get this straight before I commit to it. And as I said, somebody said yesterday about it being intimidating. What I do, I just hope not, because it's the whole point of this is me trying to show you how easy it is to do it. So, I think I'm doing it wrong if that's the case. It's not. I don't want it to be. I don't want it to feel like that. And it's funny. It popped up on Instagram this morning by a guy on TED talking about drawing wasn't art. It's good to drawing isn't art. I've been saying this for years. I mean, if you look at one of my early videos, and that was a consequence of me my Sunday morning escapades with one of the local creative art group things, who were a bit misguided, shall we say. There's art groups that are more activists than artists. One of those. It was one of those. Very missing the point, I'm afraid. Anyway, I fell out with them. And but we used to have the Sunday morning portraits thing. This guy came along and it was all the perception of what it is to be an artist, the perception of what it is to make art was probably ingrained within him. It was like archetypal. I mean, I've got 2 examples really. It was this guy who had come along with his little clear sleeve, clear pencil case kind of thing for millions of pencils and God knows what else. And then there's this other guy who used to be a miner who became a fine artist, who designated himself as a fine artist, who played the fine art role, that eccentric kind of raggy clothes kind of thing, and tattoos and all that sort of stuff. Played the role. This is what an artist looks like, I think. The uniform. I talked about the uniform before when I went to art college, and I remember old Eric Platt talking about it was in the 70s, so it was loons and cheesecloth. You remember that? Cheesecloth shirts. It was all that, and he was talking about how artists wear a uniform. You see it now. You see it in some of these interviews with the so-called greats. You can see how these galleries do these interviews and insights into studios, and they're not real people, are they? They're just pastiches of what it is to be an artist. I don't think there is one definition, whether they're wearing a suit or they're wearing nothing. You know what I mean? It's doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So the uniform thing, Jackson talks about the uniform, because in our world, you go on YouTube and all that. There's a uniform in there. and he talks about putting his coat on. And that's what people do, and they dress it up, and they dress up the scene, and they dress up the studio, and they've got it's just something about it. It's a bit, I don't know. It's probably my nature, and being a Yorkshireman, being direct and being forthright and all that sort of stuff, that for me means something. For most people, it's like outspoken. I used to have that problem all the time in the studios when I just tell clients what I thought of them, or I tell people what I thought of them, full stop. You just can't do that. That's what I'd say. You just can't do that. Why? Why can't you do that? Why can't you tell people where they stand? No, you can't do that. Sort of people are so frightened to speak. I'm not talking about hurting anybody. I'm talking about telling them the truth. I had that problem at university. You can't tell them that the work's rubbish. Why? Why can't you tell them? Why can't you put them, out the misery? On the right course. Go and find a course that suits you better. Is what I used to say. It was not long before I left. Obviously, you can't say things like that. So this thing about drawing not being art, it primarily came from the this guy that was whipping out all the the loads of equipment, which again is that back to the guy, the multimillionaire that was with at Brighouse, who bought every piece of equipment you can imagine, a fishing vest full of it all, and never made him any better at doing it. He could have just had a couple of burnt sticks and some dodgy paper like me, and been a better artist. He'd have understood more. But this guy on a Sunday morning was really going for it, with the sharpening every pencil in preparation for what was about to manifest, and he struggled. Then he struggled with doing it. Then he really, he just couldn't. I wouldn't say manifest, but he couldn't begin almost. He couldn't begin to do it because he was so wound up about this idea that what he was about to do was a work of art, create a work of art, and consequently the trepidation and of that expectation is just overwhelming. So he couldn't do it. And he tried, and he got more and more frustrated, and I see that all the time. I see people in groups. The occasion that I go now, I don't go to many groups, but when I go, I see those that are trying, those that are not just there for a cup of tea and a slice of cake. I see the anguish that they go through. It's almost like torture. I think it's because they can't let themselves be. I think that's one of the things about being an artist is you have to let yourself be. Just to be whatever it is that you will be, not want to be, because that's the same. That's in the same vein as considering it to be art. But that pressure is I think the thing that most people would see it as, and I don't know. I've been, for some reason, things have been popping up on the Instagram with talking about Milton Glaser, Saul Glass, all these great graphic designers of the time. And the thing that sort of becomes quite apparent when these proper old 70s graphic designers talk about their work is that there's a fairly relaxed acceptance about them. And I always liked that about, before it became such a pressured thing and the computers then took over. These guys were just in it for the fun. It's like the Charles Keeping illustrations. There might be some what seems to be torturous endeavor in it, but it's not really. It's just someone letting themselves be, just as I say with Milton Glaser saying about, people asked him what his job was, and he just said he just moves stuff around until it looks good, and that probably epitomizes the kind of relaxed way of going about doing it. And this is the same thing with this. It's not really about, I'm gonna, I've seen people. It's like I was talking about the cheating thing the other day about using techniques and whatever, and somebody commented completely. I often think that when I talk about stuff, and nobody's listening to what I'm talking about, they're watching me drawing and probably turn the sound off. But the thing that I think is the most important thing about doing this is what I'm saying. It's not really, somebody said you could draw a real Santa figurine or something, a toy or something. What's the point in that? I was talking about using techniques or systems to make accurate copies of things, and how that damages your visual growth, your visual observational growth. Because this is one of the things that, it'll come. The visual observation thing will come. There's no doubt about it, and it'll come just because you keep doing it. But you got to keep doing it. That's the thing. And this is not about habits. It's another thing that annoys me about talking about habits, drawing habits. I'm going to create a drawing habit. You don't need a habit. You just need to do it for the right reasons. Then you'll never stop doing it. It's not about creating a habit. You do get into habits. It's my habit that I keep doing this, and the way I do it, there's lots of habits. You'll see all the habits that I've got when I'm doing it. But this more relaxed acceptance thing. I've just seen a guy this morning doing some amazing portraits, and the eyes are a bit too big, and like me, he's got all the ancillary lines. When I do this, and there's a lot of lines left over, he's got all that, and I put on it just, I love the wrongness of it. Not sure whether or not it was a wrongness, acceptance and wrongness, or a deliberation. It may have been, because often people will adapt a style and or adopt a style that has a peculiarity about it. It might be that the neck's too long, or the heads are a bit wide, or the eyes are a bit sort of manga. There are a lot of people will do that deliberately, as much as a consequence of their growth. And in a way, those finding the methods, finding the tricks are often part of the problem of this thinking that it's an art. You're creating art. It's part of that problem, and the only way you're going to get it is if you follow this rule, follow this, do it this way. Oh, that's it. That's shortcut. That's what I'm looking for. A shortcut. If you're looking for shortcuts, you're not doing it right. You know what I mean? It's not really about shortcuts. It's about long cuts. It's about how long can you do this for. That's the thing. Because this is the moment that you're in ecstasy. If you're a creative person, then your world is defined by doing this, right? Whether it's drawing or whether it's painting or whatever. That's your world. So that's where you want to be. So looking for shortcuts to take you from a place where you want to be is a bit silly, isn't it? Right? But this is all back to the, it's art, making art thing. I think I saw another video, which is probably another thing I often say, is that it's not for me to call what I do art. It's just I just create stuff. I make stuff. Mostly draw stuff, and mostly draw faces. Which somebody said to me that I can't be called a portrait artist because I only draw faces. guess what I said to them? You remember what I said about being forthright? But that's it. That's the other side of this, is that we do what brings us pleasure, and if this does that, exactly that, then that's good enough. That's good enough that's a good enough to reason to keep drawing faces every day for everywhere. For the last 5 years. Not good enough reason to draw Santa every day, because I'm fed up with Santa and I want to draw something else. But I have that's another one of those things that I like to just to interject, if you like, in what I do, is that I just want to make it interesting. I don't think challenging is the right word, but the whole point of this is that and the way I do it is that I connect with other humans. And even though these are only photographs and this guy's talking about I should be doing figurines or whatever, I've got a bit more, it's probably life experience than anything else, but I can create personas for characters and feel characters regardless of whether or not it's a photograph or if it's actual a live person. In fact, a live person, it's probably harder work to connect. It's worth it, but it's not. It's not the things that people will tell you. For me, having a live model is about your human connection. And if you don't do that, if you're spending time measuring or doing whatever, nothing, just not connecting with the subject, then you're not doing it right. You're just making copies of people, and that for me is part of the problem. I think for a lot of people is that that's what they think it is. But this and then consequently, and it's all on this road to creating art, But going back to the guy on the Sunday mornings, as soon as we started talking about it in terms of just his response to this person, we actually had a live model as well. So we just talked about how that was the driver, this connection with this person, and however he felt about that was the or how he felt about that individual was the goal. So everything changed then. We sort of stopped using all the different shades of graphite, and he started to see more. I still didn't see that much because he was still too worried about whether he got the right graphite, grade of graphite, But nevertheless, it was a massive improvement for him. Massive, and the speed at which he captured was incredible. Partly because he was an engineer and spent most of his time working on diagrams and things like that. So, and on site sketches and things, which would probably constitute doodles or scribbles. But he was mapping out. He was explaining to people. He was he was doing all the things that drawing does, other than this, and that he adapted that. He just took that approach to drawing the face, and all of a sudden, how many pencils he got out, which ones he used, all the rest of it became irrelevant. So that, in a way, he was, and this, because he differentiated between his day-to-day job of doodling and explaining and making art. There was a clear definition between the two, and really there isn't. So he then, when he went, and as soon as he realised that, everything changed, and he could then become, and then relax, and then become and be, and just let himself be, as I said. But it's not, it's not something that people are used to with this. This is always going to be a defined process for some people. It's always going to be, you know, an artistic endeavor. The charcoal, you can see it's working now. The charcoal that in this instance, this charcoal, I think I don't know whether or not you can do it with shop ball, but I think you could. But it's probably more to do with more relaxed way of applying it. But there's this in between. There's a colour that change on this one, by the way. You can see it from this one to this one. So that one was that one, and then suddenly I'm using this piece, and it's now grey black as opposed to. I can live with this because it's creating a sort of a middle tone, but and I can then put this. It's not too far away. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes if the colours are too different, then I've no chance of making it work, because it'll just, that imbalance thing I talk about sometimes, it will just be too imbalanced, and it won't balance. No matter what you do. It's a bit like putting white crayon or white charcoal or something. It's no matter what you do, it's still going to be out of whack with the rest of it. So you've got to be able to get it some kind of balance going on. It's not too far off the. Basically, and I never talk about these stupid grayscale things, which, as far as I'm concerned, it was just used them from printing. I always remember that's the only time I saw them, and even now,